the forthcoming global mobility revolution and what India's role will be in this. We have with us today Mr. Carl Pope, who will be speaking to us on the topic. A warm welcome to all our colleagues who've joined us online. They're from across the group companies, Mahindra and Mahindra, Tech Mahindra, Mahindra Excello, Logistics, Holidays, Financial Services, Sustain, Real Estate, First Choice Services, and maybe one or two more. Investor Relations. They're right here with us. In fact, I'm learning that this is the third speaker series we are doing with a web link. And the web link is proving to be extraordinarily popular. So we spoke to a bunch of people in the building and said, why aren't you downstairs? Oh, we're seeing it on the web link. So I think we have to revisit the model now a little. No web link inside this building. So it's a pleasure to introduce Mr. Carl Pope. He's an environmentalist, a consultant and former executive director of the Sierra Club. He's a senior advisor to Mike Bloomberg in his United Nations role as special envoy for cities and climate change. Mr. Pope is an author, co-author of several books and articles on environmental issues, including Strategic Ignorance, Why the Bush Administration is Recklessly Destroying a Century of Environmental Progress, and the latest, Climate of Hope. We've been looking forward to this session. Mr. Pope, over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, first I want to say it's a tremendous honor and privilege to be here with the Mahindra family. I was delighted to learn about a week ago that I'm actually a part of it, in a way. About 8 years ago, somebody that worked for me at the Sierra Club was starting a new transportation company, and he had the vision that people in the 21st century didn't necessarily want to just drive one form of transportation in a day. They might want to get to work by mass transit, and then they might want to go home by taxi, but they might have to deliver something in between, and they needed a way to get around, and they should have the ability to get some electric mobility available. So he founded a company that provided, basically, it's like an Ola or an Uber for electric scooters. And he asked me if I would go on the advisory committee to help them get going, which I did, and then the company took off slowly. It was difficult to figure out how to get the customers and the locations, but now it's all over San Francisco, little red scooters, little red electric scooters. And now it turns out that this company is Scoot, and you own a third of it. So actually, I'm part of your structure, and I didn't even know that. The other thing I wanted to pass on is I was over at NITI Aayog yesterday speaking to Rajiv Kumar, the vice chairman, and I said I was coming here today. We were talking about the new EV policy, and I said, well, you know, is there any messages you would like me to carry? Is there anything I should say to them? And he said, congratulate them on their leadership. So from Aayog to you, congratulate you on your leadership. I wasn't surprised, but I was delighted. So let's talk about the mobility revolution. Let's talk about sustainability, and let's talk about the role of India. If I can, no, I'm not technically. Do I need to stand back there, or? Okay. Okay, my basic theme, there's a global imperative for the 21st century. We need to modernize. We don't need to fossilize. People talk about sustainability sometimes as if it was like, I don't know what the Indian equivalent would be. We talk about cod liver oil in the United States, something that's good for you but very unpleasant. But if you think about sustainability the way I like to think about sustainability, if you have a choice between a kerosene lantern or an LED, which would you rather have? And we need to pick the LED route. Next. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about what's going to happen in the next 30 years. Roughly speaking, the amount of wealth that is generated in the world is going to increase fivefold. And roughly speaking, the amount of affordable natural resources, copper, cement, steel, wood, petroleum, that we will be able to access is going to go down by about 50%. And if you do the math, that means that every pound of stuff we take out of the earth is going to have to deal 10 times as much value as it does today. That's the scale of the revolution we have to live through. It's a little hard to see, but since 1900, there's a blue line here that shows you labor productivity. Labor productivity has increased dramatically since 1900. It's increased 48-fold since 1820. Resource productivity, the amount of value we get out of a pound of iron ore or a cubic foot of timber, has only gone up 8 times. So we now need in the 21st century to take this yellow line that represents resource productivity, and we need to get it up here with what we've done with labor productivity. Because otherwise, we're not going to have enough affordable stuff. Now, I underscore that word affordable, because you've all heard and you all know that people who work for the coal industry or the steel industry or the oil industry will tell you, oh, no, we can find more. There'll always be more. We just have to look harder and work harder. Well, that's true in one sense. We can find more. We're actually not going to run out of petroleum. That's not going to be the end of our civilization. But there's a problem. Next. There we are. If we simply seek more stuff, jack up the price. This is a supply curve. This is a supply curve that's extremely important to India, and it's extremely important to Mahindra. It's the supply curve for oil. If you look at this line, this represents what happens to the price as you go after more and more oil. And out about here, all of a sudden you see that very steep, asymptotic right-hand curve. And when we try to produce our way out of the resource shortage, we run into those right-hand asymptotic curves. And when that happens, well, the rupee goes to hell. Inflation takes off. India's GDP stalls out, and people stop buying cars. So a bunch of bad stuff happens. So this is not the pathway we want to take, although it's the pathway we've always taken in the pathway. We can seek more stuff. I'm not going to tell you the oil's not out there. There's a lot of oil in some unbelievably difficult place to get in Central Asia that we can get. Doesn't answer the question of what our grandchildren are going to do. But there is a lot of oil out there, and you can't afford it. So what's the alternative? If we're not going to take more stuff out of the ground, there's only one other place to get value: between our ears. What we have to do is to innovate our way through the sustainability challenge. And that's why, actually, it isn't going to be painful, because actually, LEDs are better than kerosene lanterns. I'd much rather light my house with one. And actually, and I can say this because I drive one, electric cars are much better than internal combustion engines. They're actually a lot more fun to drive. But there is a problem with innovation. I want you to look at these two curves. I showed you the asymptotic curve, which is the high production, low productivity solution. This is the innovation problem. This is, you've probably all seen some version of this. This is the product adaptation curve. Tech enthusiasts, early adapters, the early majority, the late majority. This is the percentage of the population that's being added to the customer base over time. This is, a little hard to see, this is the S-curve, classic S-curve for what happens to the price. Here's the price of the product, here's the volume, here's time. Both of these curves have a problem. It's their left-hand side. The problem with the commodity cycle is the right-hand side of the curve. It goes up like this. The problem with innovation is the left-hand side of the cycle. It's goddamn flat. Very flat curve. This is a very flat curve. And working your way through that flat curve is what kills innovation. And it's what slows innovation and what creates these continual moments of panic. So what do we do about getting through the left-hand side of the innovation curve so we don't have to hit the right-hand side of the commodity curve? Eventually. You went too far. No. Okay. There's a thing called policy, and by policy I don't mean government policy. Policy can also be corporate policy. We have to make a conscious decision to drive through the left-hand part of the phase quickly. We have to move. We can't just let the market naturally create enough customers for an innovation. We have to create customers for innovation. Because if we don't need to create all the customers. We just need to create this first wave of the customers for the innovation. And we've done that. We do that by creating markets that must be served by innovation. The reason we have solar panels is because we could not put kerosene lanterns